Greetings, world. It's your boy Jason Armstrong coming to you with my latest segment of A Slice of Pie. This is where we talk all things community and hopefully building community through partnerships, innovation, and empowerment. It's been a minute since you heard from your boy. I took a little summer hiatus, but now I'm back in the lab. I'm back at it, so let's get to it. In today's segment, I want to share a story about the potential outcomes, results, when people in the community subscribe to the community P.I.E framework that I talk about so much. A few months ago, I was the keynote speaker at a conference, and this conference was for the dental industry. And so going up to this conference, I didn't know anybody there. And a lot of people don't believe me when I say this, but I'm naturally an introvert. Now, some of you can pick your mouth up after hearing me say that because you don't believe me, but I promise you, I am naturally an introvert. Now, throughout the course of my career and being a public figure and all of those things, I had to learn and manage how to overcome that, where I could be out in public and I could socialize and I could do all of the things that come natural for an extrovert, but it was work and it was things that I had to work at. I still find myself at times still very much that introvert, especially when I go into spaces that I don't know anyone and that are unfamiliar to me. That's when it really comes through. And me at a dental industry conference is the perfect recipe for me to be going into a space where my introvertedness is going to be on 10. And because I was one of the keynote speakers, there was a private event that I was invited to that was just for a small group of people. And so I go to this event, the event had already started. So people are already mingling and doing all the things. So as an introvert, one thing that stands out to me is everybody's already talking to somebody. And so I don't have a place to fit in. So let me just go sit down or let me just go get out of the way and just try to manage the space as best as I can. And something that I've done over the years in navigating this is just really trying to be intentional about when I'm in those spaces and when I don't feel as comfortable as I may in a familiar space, is I just try to meet one person and just really build a connection and have a really in-depth conversation with one person. And that is normally my goal going into these spaces, is if I can just meet one person, then that is a success for me in that space, and walk away with just a good connection, a good conversation or a dialogue about something significant. So as I'm in this room and everybody's going about mingling and things, this older woman comes up and starts talking to me. And I believe she recognized me from one of the advertisements or marketing pieces about the conference and me being one of the featured speakers there. And she starts talking to me, "Hey, you're the police chief, aren't you?" And we just strike up just a regular conversation. And as we're talking about things and she's asking me questions about my career and the law enforcement profession and different things like that, she starts telling me about some things that had happened recently in her neighborhood. And the way that she described it, it sounded like it was a subdivision, and some kids in the subdivision participated in one of these social media challenges or pranks or what have you. And in the course of doing this, it was one of those where they go to different houses and they do things, but in the course of doing it, they damaged multiple houses. And that was a part of the prank, but they were able to find out who the kids were that did it and where they lived. And what she was talking to me about was trying to figure out, and some of the people that have been impacted or victims of the damage, was just trying to figure out the best course of action of how to handle the situation. They were all juveniles, and so that there's a uniqueness of going through the juvenile process if you take things through the legal justice system. But then they're all neighbors. And part of what was coming out was, well, how do we manage this in a way where on the other side of it, we're still able to be neighbors and all live in this community and not have any long-standing tensions or conflict. So she's explaining to me what happened, and she's talking about what some of the people were talking about, some of the ideas that they were coming up with trying to manage this issue. And so I started giving her some guidance and just giving her some ideas to think about, and pulling from my experience in law enforcement and having to manage and navigate situations like this previously, just some very basic things of what I thought could be options for them. With the number one option being, if this was unique to the community and all of these families pretty much know each other, or they're all in that close-knit area, my recommendation was this situation to me would be ideal for this to be a community-led initiative and not something that they were relying on the police to lead. Because when the police have to lead in these spaces, we have certain guidance and protocols and rules that we have to incorporate into how we handle a situation. When it's community-led, the community can be as creative as they want to be in that space to find resolutions that are most beneficial for everybody involved. Because yes, while these kids did commit these acts and they did do the damage to the properties, also at the same time, they're kids, they weren't processing information the best way. And is it most beneficial for them for the police to be involved and for that to be who they're dealing with? Or would it be most beneficial for the community to come together to try to see if they can find a resolution to this situation? And would that be best for these teens in moving forward and possibly helping them make better decisions in the future? So in the course of talking, we had a very long conversation. And at one point, the woman asked me, does she need to leave? Because she felt as though that she was taking up all of my time and she was sure that other people wanted to have conversations with me. Meanwhile, she doesn't know that she is doing me a huge favor by having this long conversation, because it made me feel more and more comfortable being in that room. And so I'm like, no, I can stay here and talk all night about this, because this is more comfortable for me, instead of having to leave this conversation and then now I'm a fish out of water and I'm trying to generate another engagement or another conversation going. So we continue the conversation, and I'm just giving suggestions and ideas of things that they could try. And at the end of the day, if they don't work, they always have the police route that they could go to get law enforcement involved in trying to get the situation rectified and the damage paid for, or whatever outcomes that they were interested in. So this is months ago that I'm at this conference. And one day last week, I get a message in my inbox on one of the social media platforms. And it's from the woman that I had the conversation with. And she goes through, hey, I don't know if you remember, but I met you at this conference and we talked about this issue in the neighborhood and things. And so she was reaching out to me to give me an update on what happened. And matter of fact, let me see if I can find it and I can just read some of it to you all, because one, I appreciated getting an update on it and hearing how it unfolded. But she says, I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me about the kids that did the TikTok thing with fake guns and masks in her daughter's neighborhood. Thanks to your encouragement, through me, those affected by the boys' activities did reach out to the parents of the kids involved, and there was a meeting with the kids, all of the parents and the households affected by the violent behavior. The parents paid for the damages on the spot, and the boys sat and listened, truly affected, as each family spoke of how the boys' actions affected them and their children. The boys were visibly affected by the words, I think good was done last night. The belief is that the boys now have a clear mission to stop this behavior, and parents are now clued into what their kids are up to. Thanks for your part in this. So I responded back, it does my heart good to hear that there was a positive outcome with this. And then her response was, everyone grew as a community, the families who were hit, the parents of the boys, and more importantly, the boys themselves. And getting that message and just hearing that it worked in that instance. I didn't do anything. I can talk about this stuff for hours on end. So all I did was just offer some suggestions and recommendations of ways that they might want to consider addressing this challenge and this issue. The people in that community, they did all of the work. And because they were the ones that did all of the work, because they were the ones that were closer to it and most impacted by what had happened, now they have the ability to be most impacted on the other side of it in something that can be positive growing from this. And for me, that is the heart of my community P.I.E framework, and how we can do things in spaces with one another, even when there has been a harm or a trauma, or there is tension, issues, different things that are at play. But if people come into that space intentional about trying to find results, it's not about laying blame or trying to make the other person feel bad, but just trying to find results that can be mutually beneficial for everybody in the space, even the person that has caused the harm. And that's when our communities can thrive. And that's where we can see some of the positive change that a lot of us want to see in our communities. I wanted to share that example. Sometimes for those of us that create content like this and we do all of this talking to a camera and we don't know who watches it, we don't know what their takeaways are, we don't know if there's an impact or anything like that. Getting that validation from someone about them being able to take some of the information and apply it to a real world situation and to see that there were some tangible positive outcomes as a result does my heart good, and it just helps push the message forward that if we're going to see the change that we want to see, if we are going to have the impact that a lot of us want to have, we can't rely on others to do it for us. We have to be committed to doing our part in it and understanding and finding where we add the most value in that space to do our part. That story helped me and motivated me to get back in front of the camera, because it's been too long since I've come to you all with one of these segments. I hope that would inspire and motivate someone out there to take the opportunity when you're presented with it to lead an effort of community and trying to work with community to fix a situation, to heal a situation, or just to make a situation better than how it is today. Because at the end of the day, we all are responsible for the communities that we live in and the communities that we're connected to. And we can accomplish a lot more if more people took that on. I'm Jason Armstrong. I'm done here.